Hello, hello, hello to everyone, and thank you for joining me today, this nice Sunday afternoon, at least here in America it is, on this nice little special occasion of the first edition, because unfortunately I had to move it from Friday. The schedule's getting a little too cluttered, especially with me trying to finish up this next video, which turned out to be about 35 minutes long, and it's mainly because I'm trying to tie down some very abstract ideas. Unfortunately, I I had the idea of trying to explain why people got so angry with The Last Jedi and Game of Thrones, and mainly the getting angry with the idea of subverting one's expectations. Okay, one second. I think I got it. Sometimes the sound setting resets itself. There we go. That should be better. Hopefully it's a little bit better. Wait for everyone to come back and tell me if the audio is a little bit better now. Let's see. Okay, good. Awesome. Fantastic. And sometimes, I'm not sure why, but sometimes the audio kind of resets itself where it's a little louder, or a lot louder than I usually have it. But it's an easy fix. Easy fix. Thank you for letting me know. Fantastic. But yeah, this next video is going to be about are we watching movies wrong, which is apparently in the YouTube critique world is the main flagship argument of the other side. Is saying that The Last Jedi, Captain Marvel, all these big political movies that they're trying to push the agenda on are not they're not bad movies. They're trying to say they're not bad movies, and you're getting upset over nothing. You're getting upset because you're watching movies wrong, and it's not the people. It's not the movies that are bad. It's you. There's something wrong with you. That's their argument. And so that's what the next video is going to cover. Let's see. There we go. Essentially what the next video is going to cover. But today, I decided to try a little something special I think you might like, especially because it's going to have some significant repercussions. It's not just an exercise. This is something that will go forward into something that will likely be produced. So on this edition of the first edition, we're going to be creating a character that I've already set the groundwork for, and you might already be familiar with. But it's not. She's not fully developed yet. This character's not fully developed yet. And that's what we're going to do today. We're going to see what we can do with a character, how we develop a character for a character who already has a foundation set up. So having said that, let's go ahead and get started, shall we? And we are back with the first edition. I am your humble host, the Literature Devil, and today we're going to be building a character, but not just any character. We're going to be fleshing out the character Lady Midnight. And the thing is, we started out a little something. Let's see here. She has a foundation already. She's already appeared in the Jolly Goodbye. But everyone seemed to like her. Even the artists who worked on her seem to like her a lot, have a lot of fun with her character. So what we're going to do today is see if we can add on a little bit, see if we can grow out her character a little bit. And what I mean by that is that, yes, the foundation is already set. Just like Bruce Wayne, as Batman, his foundation is that he's a crime fighter. He's a billionaire. He owns his own business, and he goes out and fights bad guys. That's the foundation of his character. But the what makes him human, what brings him from two-dimensional crime fighter to a three-dimensional crime fighter, three-dimensional character, is the fact that there's more to him than just the Batman persona. He has likes and tastes. He has his very own ideals and philosophy. He has things that he dislikes and likes, and he has hobbies. He might like to go fishing. Who knows? And I think an even better example is Picard from the Next Generation of Star Trek. Not the recent Picard, because I haven't seen that one as of this recording, but Picard from the traditional TNG. His foundation is that of a highly competent Starfleet captain, the captain who runs the Enterprise, and he is a diplomat. He is the commander. He is the lead, the head honcho of the Enterprise. And that is his foundation. However, you branch out. What really makes him a three-dimensional character, what really makes him Picard, are his interests, the things that kind of surround his foundation, but aren't actually an essential element of when he's in his element. So when if you take Picard when he's doing his captain business, when he's facing down some new alien species, or trying to outwit some Klingons or some Romulans, he would know that he really likes to read Ulysses, or he likes to listen to classical music, or he likes to play little flutes, or he likes his tea Earl Grey hot. You would know that, but those little details are what make him an actual three-dimensional character, would bring him into the realm of being a person rather than just a two-dimensional pulp figure that is a captain. There's nothing wrong with two-dimensional pulp figures if you just want to see a guy be heroic or something. But one of the amazing things of what brings a character to life and sets them apart from other characters like themselves, like what sets apart, for example, James T. Kirk from Picard, are really those little details. Where James T. Kirk might like to go around and, I don't know, box or something, and go to bars and drink. Picard would rather use his time to read a book or look at photographs or something. And that's where it goes. The Picard is it's mainly because Patrick Stewart brought in his Shakespearean interests into the role of Picard, and so Picard also shares his interest in Shakespeare and classical literature, and pretty much everything Patrick Stewart likes. So that's what I mean by foundation versus three-dimensional output. So right now, Lady Midnight's foundation is that she is a crime fighter in a city called Orb City, and she's kind of, Orb City is kind of like Frank Miller's Gotham City in Batman Year One, where corruption is rampant, crime is rampant, and the police department doesn't yet have a working relationship with Batman. There are no heroes in Warp City. That is the saying of the whole thing. I guess that's what kind of how the story kind of begins. There are no heroes in Warp City, and the reason for that is they don't have the luxury of being good guys. They if they need to kill somebody, they will. If they need to do horrible things in order to beat the bad guys, then they will have to do that. And they have to do that because they don't have. Not only do they not have the support of the police, so the police will actively try to kill them, because Orb City is a very hostile place. Let's see here. Shuckzilla 3000. I love two-dimensional characters when they're not actually human. Jaws, Xenomorph. Oh yeah. I mean, the two-dimensional characters do have a place. You get this with an actual formula. With two-dimensional characters, you can have, it's called a static character. When you have like maybe a veteran a veteran warrior type who comes in and you just want to have a story where a powerful main character walks into town and cleans it up, defeats all the bad guys, and he wins. But in that formula, it's not really the main character that's the focus. It's usually the side characters who are the focus. So might have a really, really skilled samurai who comes into town and defeats everyone. But the troubles that you follow, the people that you really follow or are really concerned with, are the side characters, the people who have been living there their whole lives, or have been who are most affected by the troubles, and then people who are most vulnerable but trying to live anyway. One might say in some stories, at least, it's some stories, okay? Because there are instances where this character does grow and change, but in a lot of his stories of following the journey of Ito Ogami from Lone Wolf and Cub, he is rather static. It's not like he gains new knowledge all the time. He usually comes in and the premise of the story is how pretty much to be quite frank, how invincible he is, and his invincibility gets pretty interesting and outrageous, but it remains interesting. The stories remain interesting because it doesn't usually revolve around Ito Ogami. He is an element in a lot of the stories, and a lot of the plot revolves around his plans. But if you look at each story, it comes down to who is hiring him to assassinate the target of the day, why they're asking him to assassinate these people, and all the circumstances surrounding it. And that's where you can have like an interesting story with a static main character, as long as you focus on the side characters or something else. Something else usually takes the focus. Let's see here. Let's see. Angel of Thy Sword. I think a few iconic examples of 2D characters are Michael Myers, Jason Voorhees, and Freddy Krueger. Oh yeah, because they're bad guys. Or they're not really bad guys. Yeah, they are bad guys, but they have a unique position of being a main character and the antagonist. Yeah, we don't want Jason Voorhees to change. We don't want any of those guys to change. We want them to stay exactly the way they are, tormenting the innocent teenagers. Or in some cases, not so innocent. Let's see. Let's see here. Thomas Brennan, I think the existential ruminations of Jaws would be fascinating to read. Yeah, and that's kind of where Dr. Alpha actually came from. Taking the idea of a two-dimensional character and kind of fleshing it out. Board Enthusiast, I don't think a hobby necessarily builds up the foundation of a character. I believe that the temperament, personality, vices, and virtues are what makes them. Oh yeah, the foundation of a character, when I say this, is what kind of archetype are they? Essentially, it doesn't have to be an archetype, but it's essentially what kind of role do they fill in the story. So your foundation is going to be, for Batman, a crime fighter. For Picard, his foundation is going to be a captain of a starship, and then you kind of build off of that, and you kind of work backwards. For me, anyway, you work backwards from there, and say, continue with questions such as, well, why is he captain? What kind of drive brought him here? And some episodes actually, they ask these questions and they explore them, and it's pretty good. That's what you should do as a writer when you're trying to make your character from two-dimensional role filler to an actual living and breathing person. And so you start off with Starfleet captain, spaceship captain, starship captain. And then you go, okay, what brought him here? How old is he? Because if he's in a position of power, like starship captain, then age would be a very appropriate element to hit on. Is he older? So yep, he probably has a long career then. It might not even be his first command. If he's older, anyway. So then he probably was this grizzled guy who clawed his way to the top. Is he younger? Then he's probably going to be some sort of prodigy, some sort of abnormally skilled, abnormally talented, like an Alexander the Great type, who made some groundbreaking strategy, or he's really good at command, and then you go on from there, and then you keep working backwards from there. What kind of hobbies would he have? And if he's younger, he might like to play games more than an older person would. The older person might want to sit down and have a nice read, or listen to music, or reminisce over old times, that sort of thing. So you work backwards from there, and from the foundation of, for example, Starship Captain, you move into something more fleshed out. Chinggis Khan thinks of the 5. Yo, lit, devil. Don't you know how long I can stick around? So take my money. Don't know how long I can stick around, so take my money. Oh, appreciate it. So I think that's what I wanted to do with Lady Midnight. So her role is as a crime fighter. She has the same foundation as Batman. In fact, the Orb City is kind of more or less modeled after Gotham, the darkest time of Gotham. Where there's corruption everywhere, except the difference here is that in Gotham it's populated by mad people. In Orb City, the main source of antagonism are cultists and elder gods and strange magicians and things like that. Just less going around capturing robbers and more stopping interdimensional beings from invading the Earth. Let's see here. The Boy Enthusiast, ER, quotes writer Aaron Eaz. Oh, I remember that. Instead of making a character sympathetic, make him compelling. Instead of making him relatable, make him dimensional. Exactly. You don't, because there's a lot of emphasis these days, for some reason, on making characters relatable, which is not really a bad thing, but it's not necessary either. So when we flesh out a character like, for example, Lady Midnight or Batman, we're not doing it to make them more relatable. It's more, the goal is to kind of logically plan out what kind of person are they. Now, if you just want to tune in for someone who's going to punch the bad guy in the face, it's one thing. But if you want to write a story, for example, like they did in Star Trek, where they ask what really brought Picard to the position he was in Star Trek, what made him the captain, and it was his chaotic nature. It was, well, when he was young, it was his brash, chaotic nature, the kind of man who would get into a fight and laugh as he's stabbed in the heart. That sort of ambition is what brought him to the rank of Starfleet captain. It's not relatable. It's not necessarily. I'm not really sure how many people actually have that sort of mentality. In fact, that's probably why he was so unique. So unique that he became a Starfleet captain, which is not something anyone can attain. But it was compelling. It was compelling. It was interesting. So as we go out and we flesh out our characters like we can flesh out Lady Midnight, it's not necessarily making her more relatable, but something that logically would fit with her character. And so we start off with a dimension, or start off with a foundation of her being a crime fighter, and the next step is, well, how does she fight crime? In this instance, Lady Midnight fights her enemies with magic. And then you can ask, well, where does the magic come from? And in this instance, where she kind of simulates magic as like a witch or a sorcerer, she actually hasn't sacrificed her soul or anything. She's not using demonic magic. She actually has to use magic by using magical scrolls or taking out magical artifacts and using them. She can't use magic on her own. She has to use materials and sacrifice ingredients to make magic happen. She's more like a Wiccan than a witch. There's no demonic energy involved or anything like that. It's just pure alchemy or whatever you want to call it. But the thing is, she's not fully fleshed out. And I do have some ideas in mind, but I thought it might be interesting if I share it with all of you. If we came together and see logically fleshed out what kind of hobbies and what kind of interests she might have, as examples, things like that. And so what she is right now is that how I describe it to the artist is, Sava Grim, like a bit like Constantine, yeah. It's kind of like a Constantine-ish sort of character, where she, especially the one. I know the movie Constantine is far different than the comic Constantine because I read the comic Constantine. He's a lot funnier in the comic, but if you watch the movie Constantine, it's kind of like that, where she will need symbols and holy water. You know, if you're hunting demons, then holy water, that sort of thing. Donald Gill, where does she get these items? She knows how to hunt for them. She knows how to collect them. So it's just something she's learned over her years of training. Angel of that Sword, thanks for the $1.99. You read my comment for free, so I'm reciprocating. I appreciate it. Let's see here. Yeah, she's like Constantine. So think of her like a Constantine-ish sort of character. And the way I described her to my artist, however, is that she is kind of that weird girl from that you have in college, because she's a Wiccan, but if you think about the stereotypical Wiccans, how how they're portrayed in movies and everything in the modern day, the kind of loners, the kind of they're kind of almost sometimes confused with gothic, with goths or something. You know, they're on that spectrum. You know, in South Park, they had that war between the vamp kids and the goths and the emos. Wiccans are usually shoved into that spectrum, so it's kind of like that, the kind of out there, kind of weirdish, artsy type that she is. However, she actually can make this stuff work. She's really good at it. But one way I described her to the artist is that she is a type who would major in poetry as she went to college. Well, she did go to college in this continuity. It hasn't been revealed yet, but yeah, she did go to college. She is college educated. However, she is she's the kind of girl who would major in poetry, and not anything that will actually help you in real life, but something that's artsy and deep and emotional, that sort of thing. Let's see here, Gojira 387, hippie goths, basically. I think that's a really good way to describe how Wiccans are usually portrayed, about hippie goths. Donald Gill, the stereotypical Wiccan, is usually shown as detached from reality. I can see you putting a spin on her where she is socially competent. Yeah, she can be when she chooses to be, because she kind of learned how to do that. But I was thinking about putting a spin on it where she kind of like she might seem like this strange, kind of like above people sort of person, like because of her magic, like she might seem kind of unreachable or untouchable because she has all this knowledge of magic and spells and how to break reality itself, and knowledge on artifacts, things like that. And it was fantastic. So what I thought of was, what's the opposite of that? Because what I like to do, me personally, is like to think of something and then build a character first and then explore what would happen if I gave her something of the opposite. So, for example, you can have say we have a character who's angry all the time, but you gave him a job where he is required not to be angry. Maybe you give him a job where he works with maybe special education kids, where he has to keep his temperament under control. And then and then from there you go the third part, because the twist here would be that he succeeds at it. He's successful. He's a successful carer in the special ed department, and that would bring in some tension. That bring in some questions. If he's so angry, so quick to anger, and he's all these issues, these personality and emotional issues, how is he holding himself together when he's working with his kids, and that brings out a little bit of implied personality. It makes you ask questions. Is he actually succeeding? Is he does he just take a fondness to these people? Was he in this position at one time in his early life? Who knows? But it makes you start asking questions, and it gets you thinking. When you have opposites put together, it's what forms tension. Tension is when two things collide. So two opposites collide. It's kind of like a. When I actually explore this in the next video, when rules create tension, it's how you make drama. It's kind of like let me put it this way: you have a hero trapped at the bottom of a well, and the well is filling up with water, and there's no way to escape. Maybe there's some bars above the hero. The tension comes in with there's no way that you can see this hero logically getting out unless it's a Deus Ex Machina. So how does he get out? That's where you ask the question. How does this hero logically get out? How is it possible? And then they figure a way out, and it makes sense, and it's fantastic. So that's kind of how I made this cover. I said, okay, here's what I want. We have Lady Midnight in her apartment, but here's a twist. She's in an apartment, but there's a hospital bed. Someone is hooked up to a monitor, a heart monitor, and they're as if she's taking care of someone, and they are in critical condition, which makes you just with one look. You can actually just kind of formulate a question: who's hurt, and why are they hurt, and what's going on? Did she hurt the person? Is the person just a bad guy that she beat up? What's happening? That's why I specifically had her turn toward the viewer with her mask on, so that with a visual cue, you can see that she is at least some sort of masked hero sort of person, maybe a villain, maybe a hero, you don't know. But the mask will give you a visual cue that she is in a superhero world, more than likely. Sevak Grim, thanks for the 5. No message, but thanks for the 5. Let me see here. Sevak Grim, man, your artist has me zooming into books in the background. I'm catching things I missed for the first time, like Lady Midnight, The Jolly Goodbye. Oh, that's awesome, because yeah, my artist actually showed me some of the Easter eggs he put in. And I put in a few Easter eggs on my own, but he put in a few more. So there's always things to catch. I like putting in Easter eggs, so that if you go back, you might be able to notice something different. It's kind of like, you ever listen to Patrick Rothfuss. However you might feel about him doesn't matter, but that's his philosophy too. And he goes crazy about it. I'm not really sure if he even succeeded, because I haven't read his book. I tried reading his books. Okay, they're obviously not written for me. I tried several times to read Name of the Wind. It's boring. Okay, to me it's boring. It's the Name of the Wind. I know that's actually sacrilege to say in the fantasy reader community, to say that Patrick Rothfuss is boring, but to me he's boring. He just doesn't. I don't know what's happening. He's just talking about Stu, and then he goes to some other guy who's getting robbed, and there's no action going on. Just talking. Okay, I need a little bit more action than that. But to me, he's boring. But if you listen to his philosophy, he has a similar philosophy. That he, in every page, he likes to put a lot of things that are just kind of like sewn into the background. And if you read it over again, if you catch one or two things, that's good. It's a little treat for you. I think one of the things he pointed out was that as a puppeteer, or something like something I can't remember. It's been a long time since I listened to Patrick Rothfuss, but he mentioned something about having a puppeteer named Marion, and then he goes, "Well, what is his wife's name? What would his wife's name be?" Oh, Marionette, and this is what he likes to put into his books. Those little tricks and treats like that, and I like to do that too. Easter eggs are always fun. It's always fun to have something extra in the book, rather than just the meat of it. Just a little dessert in the background. A little dessert. And the reason I wanted to flesh out Lady Midnight a little bit more and have you participate on this, because I might have a project in mind that where Lady Midnight will continue her adventures, because the artists seem to like her a lot, and a lot of people seem to like her a lot, like the like the character and her adventures in the world she lives in. And it's very interesting. I have a lot of fun writing her and the world she lives in. And that's what the private stream will be about. The private stream will be around, I'm guessing, 8 o'clock tonight, 8 p.m. And I will be going over the details of that. But for now, I think it'll be a little bit of a good time if we started fleshing out a few things. And just going over a couple of things. We might maybe some things we'll take, maybe some things we won't. But we'll see. We'll see. But that's the foundation of Lady Midnight. She is devoted to. She's like a. Now I hate to use this example of Harley Quinn, but she is kind of like that level of loyal to the hero Dark Hood. Which, if you haven't read The Jolly Goodbye, that's her hero. She's actually a sidekick. Lady Midnight is actually a sidekick. She's like the Robin to the Dark Hood. Dark Hood is essentially kind of Batman, but in the sense of that he is magical Batman. Like if Constantine were Batman, I guess. But that's essentially how it goes. She is a sidekick to Dark Hood, and the Dark Hood is more like a legacy, where if Dark Hood dies, the Dark Hood usually takes on an apprentice, and if the Dark Hood dies, then the apprentice will take on the hood of the Dark Hood and become the next Dark Hood, the next iteration. So you can have female Dark Hoods, you can have male Dark Hoods, you can have Dark Hoods of any sort of background, etc. and so forth. It's just that this case, Lady Midnight happens to be the apprentice of the current Dark Hood. But Lady Midnight will be getting possibly her own project, and we'll see where the details take us. Say Angel of Thy Sword. I love things like that too. I named some of my villains after cigarette brands. Morrow and Boro. Yeah, smokers, of course. I think that's what's the Dragon Ball Z trick? Or they named everyone is a vegetable or a fruit or something. Like the Saiyans live on planet vegetable. And he does that all the time. All these puns. But what's Lady Midnight's setup? She is a sidekick to Dark Hood. She is his very loyal apprentice. Very, very loyal. It's like the loyalty, an undying, unending loyalty. And Dark Hood is actually very loyal back to her. That's where it stands, where she's a Wiccan. She's that strange girl that probably sits in the back of the class, kind of a social outcast sort of feel to it. Probably by choice, and she probably I think she does have competent social skills because she kind of needs those to be a hero. So she needs to know how to get information out of people, things like that. But her interests are the same, and she likes to do these things. And she likes the job. She likes to combat villains and cultists and magicians. I guess you could say it's kind of like her being in the world of Sandman, and just have, instead of Sandman, instead of a dream, she takes on all these otherworldly demons and weird concepts. Like if you combine the world of Sandman and the world of Lucifer, which they essentially are in the same universe, because Lucifer is a spin-off of Sandman. But take that Sandman Lucifer universe and put that in Orb City. That's that's basically her day-to-day problems. The thing is, she has other interests too. Like she does have friends. She has a little clique, as far as I've mentioned. And the thing is, I was going to add in, because of that, I was saying before, that opposite. So I was going to have her be like a sort of a geek too. Well, usually the Wiccan character, as portrayed in modern media, is this pretentious, kind of stuck up, kind of involved in themselves, and their obsession is the obsession is Wicca. And they don't usually dive into that mundane, pedestrian stuff. But in this case, I was thinking maybe she could be into, I don't know, because she would dive into this pedestrian stuff. So she would go into something that you wouldn't expect her to. She would have like a hobby, like I don't know, Dungeons and Dragons, something like that. And that's where the project might open up. But that's the idea. That's the idea that's going along with. So that's what I mean by fleshing out the character. If anyone has any ideas, feel free to let me know, and we'll see where that fits and if that can fit in with her character. Now that I've laid it out, I think it'd be a lot of fun. I think her character would be a lot of fun, exploring more of the Lady Midnight character, and kind of exploring the life of a sidekick rather than the life of the main hero. Let's see here. Let's see. Seva Grim, poor Hell Knight. Oh, I guess you've read the the Jolly Goodbye. There's another Easter. Speaking of Easter eggs, and Hell Knight does make a return in Dr. Alpha as an Easter egg, a very significant one too. But you have to wait for it. I'm not going to reveal it just yet. But it does answer some questions, and I'm not really sure. As the next project, if I do this project with Lady Midnight, it won't answer what happened in the Jolly Goodbye, but it will be more or less in the same vein. Let's see here. So if anyone has any ideas of what they would like to see Lady Midnight, because that's where I was going with Lady Midnight character, trying to have her on one hand be this untouchable Wiccan, where she's this she seems to be concentrating on things that are above pedestrian concerns. Like she's concentrating on battling with supernatural elder gods and ancient deities, things like that. So it's pretty interesting. I thought it would be pretty interesting if she has all this untouchable stuff. Like it's kind of like a seeing or knowing someone who is on a competing on a world stage, like seeing someone, I would imagine it would be kind of like knowing an Olympic athlete, someone who dedicates their life to training and the athletic sport, and then seeing them like to play video games. It's interesting. I think that's why it's become so interesting to see politicians and things and our leaders indulge in everyday things for real. Not fake, like some of them do, where they go out and buy a clearly brand new apron and make believe and play house for a little bit. So no, genuine stuff. I'm talking about genuine stuff. It's kind of like here's a better example. In House of Cards, Frank Underwood, where he does his machinations during the day, where he goes and makes political maneuvers during the day, and then he goes home and plays video games. That's what I'm talking about, where he seems kind of like untouchable. He kind of plays in that high world stage sort of field, and then he comes home and plays video games. That's what it seems like with Lady Midnight, where she's playing on this high stage field, where she's battling elder gods and other things, and colors beyond space, and then she comes back home and plays video games or Dungeons and Dragons with her group or something. I just thought that'd be interesting. Or she doesn't watch Rick and Morty. Okay, that's where I draw the line. Let's see here. Let's see. Botan, I bet she likes the band Blackmore's Night. Probably. If I listen to all that genre of music, the genre of music. I don't think she quite goes to, what is it, Blood on the Dance Floor or whatever. She doesn't go that far. But the emotional stuff. She probably listens to that emotional stuff. That dark emotional stuff. No, the black nail polish sort of person. And if it helps you out, let's see here. Seva Grim, you should have her deal with a spike in possessions caused by the elder gods. She could be caught between these gods, competing to get or regain influence in the world, perhaps as a door back to the world. That's interesting. That's interesting. That's what sort of plots she has to deal with: possessions and strange deaths, undead, necromancers, magicians. Pretty much all the. I mean, I guess that's why I went to D&D, because that's pretty much her life anyway. Like, I guess you could almost say it's urban fantasy. Robert Bramea, ever read the Dresden Files? That's kind of how he operates. Wizard fighting interdimensional wars when he plays D&D and obsesses over Star Wars. I think it's that's Jim Butcher, isn't it? I think I have the first Dresden File book. I think I just started it. I started and I put it down and never picked it back up. Is that because I hated it? It's because I just never went back to it. I remember he said something along the lines of no one really believes him about being a magician. And I think what really put me off is when he met the police officer, and he spent a few pages telling me how strong and brave and how stunning and brave she was. And I'm like, okay. I'm gonna put this down for now. And I never went back to it. Okay, I get it. She's strong and stunning and brave. I get it. Can we move on with the story now? And no, apparently we couldn't. We need another few paragraphs on how stunning and brave this police officer is, because she's a police officer and a woman at the same time. I got it. Okay, we don't need 10 chapters on how stunning and brave she is. Let's get back to the murder. And so I put it down here and picked it back up. But I'm pretty sure I've heard it's very good. I heard it's very good. I heard the Dresden Files even has his own RPG. So maybe I'll go back to it one day. But it's kind of like the setup. I do remember the setup, where he's in the real world. I mean, he's like in the modern day, but he's also a wizard. And that's people make fun of him because he says, "Okay, so you are a magician for parties," and he says, "No, I am actually a wizard. Just in case you have any problems that require magic. That's me." But it's an interesting concept. That's why I bought it in the first place. I heard it was good, and I like the idea of a wizard in the modern day solving wizardy crimes. But Lady Midnight was really more inspired from Constantine, because I actually read Constantine, and there was no going on and on and on about how strong and stunning and brave someone was. It just went right to the story. But that's the idea with Lady Midnight, where she is this character, but she also has these hobbies you wouldn't expect her to have. But that's how I described her to the artist, and she probably likes this emotional music, that dark emotional music. She probably is. She's the type who would, major in poetry. The type to read poetry books on her off time, that sort of thing. And I really want to watch TV. In fact, in the actual comic, The Jolly Goodbye, she has a TV, but it's really, really old. And in fact, it's so old, she probably shouldn't be able to watch TV on that anymore, because it can't pick up HD. But she does. It's a superhero universe. I'm going to draw a line at old TVs. But she has an old TV because she doesn't really watch it much. And you could tell because she has a cell phone. She has a really old TV. She has a modern cell phone, but a really old TV. So she doesn't really watch TV that much. She probably reads or studies and listens to music, that sort of thing, more than indulge in that the media, whatever. Just kind of above her, I guess, or below her. That's how that goes, and that's how the character was going. And I thought I would share that with you and see if anyone out there had something to add, or if you had your own idea of where Lady Midnight might go, with the character anyway, what other elements to her character she might have, and we can work it out together. Because I think this is kind of like on easy mode, kind of as a practice, because we're not making a character from scratch. She has a kind of a set foundation already, and we'll see where it goes from there. So if anyone has any ideas, we can work them out together. Let's see here. Angel of Thy Sword, you mentioned small details earlier. What if there's a point in the story where she's feeling more or less emotional than usual, and a visual cue is that she is writing a story instead of a poem? That's interesting. So she could be, maybe one of her hobbies would be writing poems, because that would make sense, because what is a spell if not like a poetic, because that's kind of like what Alan Moore has. That's his kind of his ideology, where a spell is not really set for magic. A spell is a construction of words meant to produce an outcome. The Holy Ninja, how about she goes to church? I'm not sure if she go that far. That might be too opposite of. But it's something we can consider. But I guess she could. One hobby she could have is to be a poetry writer, and maybe not just as a hobby, but as a form of study, because spells are essentially poems, and it's kind of like computer code. And there's different. It could be that different styles, different rhyming schemes, things like that, could bring out different spells. Maybe some spells might require different rhyming schemes, different wording, things like that. So that's kind of a good idea. And she writes poems in order to kind of flesh out what kind of spell she might encounter. Like, is kind of putting things together. And then she starts writing stories instead of poems, and then you can have that be an instance of a ghost kind of manipulating her. Hex Harper, are we fleshing out Lady Midnight? Yes, because like I said, we have things set up with Lady Midnight, but she isn't actually complete yet. There's not I have every aspect of Dr. Alpha already fleshed out, but Lady Midnight, not as much. I do have all the essentials to her character already done, but she's still open to having some work done. Let's see here. The Holy Ninja. Oh no! How many terrible haikus she made. I could imagine her being being a little girl and practicing these things, and then writing out these poems for the same reason as research, and then writing them wrong, and then things go awry, or she's just terrible at it. Let's see here. Donald Gill. Okay, I see her doing beatnik poetry as a CD in a CD club at the end of a story. Stick her out of her element upon state. That could work. I could actually see that happening with that little beatnik hat. I mean, that's where she goes to blow off steam, is a poetry reading at a beatnik club. They snap into the clap. And then you have like a kind of like Doug's sister, I guess. Doug Funny's sister from Doug. Yeah, that's what the show was called, wasn't it? Doug. She was a beatnik. That was her entire character. She was a beatnik and an artsy weirdo. I guess that's kind of what her personality is. What Lady Midnight's personality is: a beatnik and an artsy weirdo. Let's see. One second. Angel of Thy Sword. I really like the idea of her safe behind doors poem writing self, developing along with her superhero alias. What if there's a murderer that writes poems next to the bodies, and she gets obsessed? Now that'd be interesting. Because that would get her worried that there's someone is leaving spells behind, or so there's someone out there who's putting spells together and kind of leaving the murder weapon behind. They'll leave poems behind. Now that would be pretty interesting. Radius, instead of D&D, I'd prefer something like she having an interest in sensationalist articles, Bigfoot aliens, because now that would work. She reads tabloids, and she reads National Enquirer, And it's kind of like a what was it in Men in Black, where they actually believe that stuff. Maybe it's like what's the other one? The Kingsman, where they have where he has all these articles of these weird things, but it's not about the weird thing. It's more about the date the weird thing was published on. So this is the day I defeated this one megalomaniac. But she could have like a bunch of a collection of sensationalist articles like impregnated by a ghost or something. Because these might not just be stories people made up. These could be, in all likelihood, actual things that occurred that no one actually believes, but might develop into a problem. Let's see here. Hex Harper, how about the more complex the spell, the more complex the poem? So cantrips would get like haikus, while more elaborate rituals get sestinas. Huh. Yeah, that makes sense, and it would work. It would work, and I think that would be the logical step to how poems work, and in relation to spells. That the simple spells are weaker spells. They're easier to cast, easier to conjure. While more complex spells, like they would have more, they'd be longer, they would have more complex rhyming schemes, they would have more complex patterns. And that's where that would be a powerful spell, or at least a far more powerful one. So that would make sense. That's a good idea. Angel of that Sword, forgive me, as I'm not sure how far we're going with this. Let's see here. Savak Grim, is her relationship with Darkhood platonic, romantic, sexual? It's sort of romantic. It's mainly officially it's platonic, but she kind of like fell in love with him. But where it is coming from Darkhood, he just sees her as an apprentice, whereas she sees him as someone she really admires and maybe is in love with. So it's kind of one-sided. And I wanted to do that because it's really rare these days, because all these people in Hollywood, they only have one side to it. It's always the guy going head over heels over some woman, and you never get the other side. And this is even brought up by the reviewer. I think it's SF Debris. He even brings this up, and something he covered before, where a lot of these Hollywood writers write from one point of view, the man's point of view. And it's always the man getting nervous. There's always the man, bumbling into things. Always the man falling in love with a woman who doesn't love him back. And he pointed out, I think it's Star Trek. He pointed it out. I believe so. I forgot what he was actually covering. It's usually Star Trek. So I decided, maybe it's the other way around this time. Maybe it's her that fell in love with him, but he doesn't have that same feeling in return. Let's see here. Donald Gill, the poetry is designed to draw her out. Kind of like it's like a Sherlock Holmesian sort of development there. Gojira 387, best investigative reporting on the planet. Agent K. That's pretty much where it's probably going. Let's see here. Radius. That would also mean advanced spellcasters would skip parts of the incantation, with really overpowered people being able to cast the most powerful spells with a single word. Oh, exactly. The thing is, one of the heroes in Dr. Alpha is a renowned master of magicians from, I believe, India. He's from India, and he's so powerful. He's just a master of casting spells that he mastered the technique of silent casting, so he doesn't have to actually do an incantation. He can just do the spell in his head and cast it whenever it's completed. He still has to cast it, though. He just doesn't have to say it out loud. Let's see here. Donald Gill, I can see her anguishing over writing a Valentine's Day card for him. That would actually probably happen. That would actually happen, yeah. Let's see here. Is something wrong with the audio still? Not sure why there would be. Let's see here. Let's see here. Is that better? I think it should be better than before. Let's see here. I'm not really sure. It might be something that went awry. Yeah, that's good. Other than that, I'm not really sure what else to do. I'm not really sure why it's particularly fuzzy or anything like that. Gudria 387, is she a very feminine girl and interests in very girly things, clothes, hair, makeup, or is she interested in less feminine things? She's interested in feminine things. She's not obsessed with them. I mean, she likes to wear dresses and things like that. She has several outfits. Let's see here. It might be something. Might be one of the filters went off a little bit, I guess. I guess I'll have to fix it before the next stream. So I'll see if I can anyway. Let's see. Okay. But yeah, I mean, she likes feminine things. She's not obsessed with them. She's kind of she prefers being feminine rather than masculine, as opposed to the DC Marvel heroes these days, where they look like men and want to be men. She doesn't subscribe to that. Let's see. Now okay, I think here's what it is. Let's see if this is better. Okay. So, what is her least favorite subject? I would think it'd be math. She's not into that social justice stuff. Okay, so it's going to be math and not the because it's probably difficult for her, or it's not as interesting for her, but it's not because of colonialism or something. So it's probably math. All the logical stuff, like engineering, things like that. She's more on the, like I said, she's an artsy, creative sort of person. She's on that side. The acoustic guitar playing type, the songwriting type, the poetry major type. Not even creative writing, but poetry specifically. Donald Gill, a big part of a character stems from their vulnerability. I'm wondering if you have any direction on what makes her vulnerable. Well, at the moment, Black Hood is one of her vulnerabilities. She will do anything to protect him and to make sure he comes back home alive. So that's why she got him, and that's why he's in her apartment and being cared for. Because she really has an obsession over him, more romantically than anything. And I haven't thought of what else does make her vulnerable. Her vulnerability is really that she's human. And kind of like Dr. Alpha, she doesn't really have any innate powers. Like I said, she only casts spells if she has the components to do so. So if she doesn't have any components or anything like that, then she's really kind of like she's more or less helpless, other than personal hand-to-hand combat techniques. Let's see. Oh, and I'm not sure if everyone saw this, but as a hint toward what the project might revolve around. Let's see here. Here we go. I had a one-page comic commissioned and drawn up by Peter Gilmore. He is the one who worked on that Umbrella Guys comic, the Case of the Littlest Umbrella. Let's see here. Angel of that sort, perhaps she becomes vulnerable for a period of time, such as by temporarily losing her ability to cast spells. That could be a thing. That could be something that might happen. Donald Gill, so far she's exceptionally competent, mildly obsessed with Dark Hood. She kind of is kind of a beatnik. Exists with a lot of poetry. Does she have anything that triggers her? I'm not sure about that part yet. That's one of the things that hasn't actually been fleshed out. Is she's triggered by anything? But here's another one-page comic, ad commissioned by Peter Gilmore, and she actually likes. Is it where she really takes a liking to this little baby Cthulhu thing? It's actually a ritual done by a bunch of magicians that went mad and killed each other. Gojira 387. How competent would she be in hand-to-hand combat? Not really. Probably above your average person, but not really that competent in it. Or would she fight using magical spells? She could only fight using magical spells if she had like an enchanted artifact or something. Where she can't actually summon magic from the ether and give herself, I don't know, a magical sword or something, unless she had an artifact that did so. Let's see here. Sevagrim, does that Lovecraft-like monster have powers? The idea here is that it's not outrightly said. The Lady Cthulhu thing, its very presence caused people to go mad, which is why the background's kind of wobbly in the background, why they kill each other. So when this thing was birthed, it started warping reality and started causing people to go mad just by its very presence. But here's the thing. I said to the artist, and this is probably not what the thing actually looks like. It might be warping the view of Lady Midnight and actually warping her mind into actually thinking it's cute and wanting to adopt it. But it's not as bad as it's a baby, so it can't really control that stuff. It's kind of like an instinct, where I'm going to turn you mad as an instinct, so that you won't kill me, instead you'll take care of me, that sort of thing. She's not a mother yet, but she does kind of have this liking to this little Cthulhu creature. Angel of that Sword, from the way Literature Devil describes her, she seems like what you get if Raven from Teen Titans was less ashamed of her creative side because she has no one in her life to hide it from. It's more or less, yeah. It's kind of like the only difference, the difference being that she can't really use innate power, but it's essentially spot on, I think. Let's see here. But even better, there was a redesigning by Botan that I liked a lot better for the creature. And I already told Peter Gilmore that we're going to go with this design from here on out, and he said, "Fantastic, sounds good to me." He liked it. He liked it way better. And so now Botan is officially my consultant on all things cute. So if I need to make a cute thing in the future, I will consult with Botan first. This is how the Cthulhu creature will look from now on, or more or less. This will look more like this than it does in the other comic. So this is what he actually looks like. This is the first discombobulated, sort of maddening take on what he looks like. The Holy Ninja, it would be hilarious if the baby Cthulhu becomes Lady's sidekick. Actually, that's the idea. The little baby Cthulhu thing is actually a new main character in the lineup for the Lady Midnight universe. So it's a new main character, essentially. It's kind of like how Baby Yoda is with the Mandalorian. This baby Cthulhu is going to be the new main character that will stick with Lady Midnight. Because Dark Hood is gone a lot, he is kind of like Batman. He has things to do, sometimes outside Orb City. So whenever Lady Midnight is on her own, she's not going to be by herself anymore. It's going to be this little creature is going to be accompanying her everywhere. Let's see here. So that's the plan going forward. And even my original artist like the idea of this little little baby Cthulhu because I think it's a perfect fit. Because Lady Midnight is, of course, she has to be by requirement, by the very idea of her profession, that she is the type of person who likes weird things. So she's the type of person who likes spiders, who would kind of probably keep a spider as a pet, kind of like a what's her name, Wednesday Addams sort of feel. The someone who thinks outside the box, the artsy type. Let's see, what else do we have? And this is a page of her in action. If you haven't seen the Lady Midnight Jolly Goodbye, this is her snow outfit, and she has an artifact like this old lantern that essentially she uses to detect elder things, which is how she was able to detect Hell Knight. Let's see here. Gojira 387, Dark Hood, Lady Midnight, and Baby Cthulhu. Happy little odd little family. Exactly. It's a perfect family for the environment of Orb City, I think. That's the idea so far. I mean, she's kind of like that artsy type. You seem to be kind of agreeing on that. That would be her character. She's kind of the artsy type, the beatnik poetry writing type. To major in poetry. Yes or no, chat? Do you think she should have an acoustic guitar that she plays? Because I'm thinking so. I'm thinking that's something we might want to add to. But I'll see what you have to say on that one. What do you think, chat? Maybe a acoustic guitar to add into her roster. Angel Vasoda, I could imagine her arriving in her apartment emotionally withdrawn after having been exposed to something disturbing. Then maybe Cthulhu hops into her lap and makes her feel much better. Yeah, something like that. That's sort of how the relationship will work. Because it's not the baby Cthulhu is not evil. It's not yet. It's just a baby. So, will her influence the baby, or is it his nature to be this little evil thing? Who knows? I guess we'll see what happens. Now, the Holy Ninja, of course, and Gojira 387. I'm fine with the guitar. Angel Sword, she plays the acoustic guitar for Baby Cthulhu. Exactly, absolutely. If she has one, that's exactly what she does with it. She's going to sing and play the guitar to help the little Baby Cthulhu fall asleep. No, never. It can never be ukulele. Ukuleles have been ruined by the social justice weirdos. They all use the ukulele because it's soft and it's non-threatening. Because they like the soft, non-threatening stuff. Because they are threatening and sharp. Gojira 387, knowing that actual beatniks were sexual perverts, and it's the only thing that bothers me. Well, it's we have creative freedom, so we could take that part out of it. Angel of the Sword, when Cthulhu becomes a monster, she comes by playing the guitar. That would be interesting if the baby Cthulhu has like this rage part of it, or it starts to act out and it needs to be calmed down. She could play the guitar to help calm it down. That could be interesting. Very interesting. And Savagrim, it should be a weird and relatively unknown or less popular instrument. Like the triangle. The Holy Ninja, how about electric guitar? See, that's something I was wrestling with. Would she have an electric guitar, which would be more like gothic, like a goth kid sort of thing, or an emo kid sort of thing, or she have an acoustic guitar, which would be more like the weird basket case poetry obsessed person sort of thing. So that is the real conundrum I think that I had. Is it going to be electric guitar, which I could see her having, or is it going to be an acoustic guitar, which I could also see her having? I was leaning more towards acoustic, but she could also have an electric guitar. It's about as likely, I think. What do you think? What do you think, Chad? Should we have an acoustic guitar for her, or should we have an electric guitar, a rocking electric guitar for Lady Midnight? And if she has an electric guitar, she could also be in a band, I suppose. Acoustic guitar is more like a solo sort of instrument, but electric guitar is something you could easily have in a band. I remember, I could see her actually being in a band with maybe Lydia from Beetlejuice. If anyone has seen that cartoon, I guess the movie too. See, Angel That Sword. She has an acoustic guitar, but uses incantation to make it electric. That would be interesting. The Holy Ninja, maybe an electric guitar is for Cthulhu. It's possible. I think we could. I think it'd be better if she only has one instrument that she uses. So one thing is that it might fit her character more if she has an acoustic guitar. For solo performances, because acoustic guitar is more solo. But on the other hand, having an electric guitar would allow her to, character-wise, be in a band if she wanted to. Now I'm seeing her being. I'm seeing her being like in a band with Lydia from Beetlejuice and Wednesday Addams. Those could be her best friends, actually. Like in her story, her two best friends could be like a spin-off of Lydia from Beetlejuice and a spin-off of Wednesday Addams, because they're both kind of like all three of them are kind of in the same vein, but they're all very different. Like Wednesday Addams is clearly different from Lydia from Beetlejuice, but they all have that same sort of personality, or at least a similar personality. They're all the same, relatively the same sort of interests, that sort of thing. Dan 1022, the electric starts to sound more appealing after you said that, but the acoustic guitar would be better for moments when she's solo. Yeah, that's the conundrum here. I think that's a real conundrum here. Is that, well, she's kind of a solo person, so an acoustic guitar would fit that portion of her. But if she had an electric guitar, she could be the lead guitarist for a band, which is also fitting for her person. Let's see here. So, I mean, that's something to think about. I don't think we can come to a decision right now or anything, but that's something to think about. I really like both of those choices. So that's why I'm asking you, chat. Which one would you think you prefer? Because right now I'm thinking, I was leaning towards acoustic, now I'm leaning towards electric guitars. You can have that band, and that'd be really neat. I guess you could technically have both. It's kind of I prefer her only having one, but I guess you could technically have both. This, when she goes home, she plays the acoustic guitar, but she deals with the poetry, and then she could play the electric guitar when she's in the band. But if we did have to choose, if we could only have one, if you could only have one, chat, which do you think it should be? Which do you think it should be? If you could only choose one for her to have, acoustic guitar, electric guitar, which one would you prefer? I like acoustic. Donald Gill, I like acoustic. She can pick up an axe when necessary. Radius acoustic, unless the band is going to be a plot point later on. Well, it could be, because that part isn't actually set out, but it could, if she is part of a band, if she were to be part of a band, then that's definitely something I would make a plot point later on. Angel That Sword, if we want to be rebellious, we could have her sing or hum during certain songs. The more intense the vocals are, the more electronic the guitar slowly becomes. I can't choose. Well, the thing is, it's about the choice of instrument here is more or less about, it's more or less, let's see here, a visual cue to her personality. So because we can't actually hear the music, there are innate personality traits that we pin on people with certain instruments. So the acoustic guitar, if someone's playing an acoustic, we can see the person playing it as more like an arty type, a poetry type, kind of a person who plays alone. Electric guitar is more of something you part of a band. It's harder. It's rock. You have a hard rockier sort of feel, and it's edgier. Okay, it's more intense, heavier. While the acoustic guitar is lighter. So that's why it's important to choose which one it might be, because it's more a visual. It's going to be used in the comic as more of a visual cue than anything else. And it'll lead you into more plot points. For example, like we said, the electric guitar will allow her to be in a band or something, which is actually pretty delightful. I kind of like that idea now. But then again, on the other hand, it's just as interesting, it's just as likely that she could be a player of an acoustic guitar. So it's either way. It's either way now. Let's see here. But I think we're on agreement that she's that type, the poetry type, the kind of like the Wiccan gothy type. Mainly because of her profession. Mainly because of her profession. Let's see. We'll see what we have here. Because she deals with all these weirdos and magicians and creatures every day. I could see that intense part of herself being perfectly exemplified, personified by electric guitar. Let's see here. No name. I say electric because of heavier tones and band. Okay. Angel of Thy Sword. All right. I'm going to attempt to be objective here. I would personally prefer an electric guitar, but I think an acoustic guitar would be more enriching for the story. Interesting. I kind of agree with that. The Holy Ninja. I want to have a story where she tries to have Baby Cthulhu attend one of the performances. See, that's the thing now, because with an acoustic guitar, it might fit her character, but that's what it's going to be. It's just going to be like a visual cue to something that just adds to a character. While an electric guitar not only will add to her character and help define it, but also add in the element of a band, which will open up new opportunities for plots, new opportunities for stories. So if it's going to be a story trail, going down the story trail, what's better for stories and the adventures in the future? It might be the electric guitar might be better. See, these are the kind of choices that you're stuck with as a writer. What kind of instrument should my character have? What kind of instrument should my superhero play? But these choices are fun. These choices are always fun, I think. Always nice little conundrum to play out. Let's see here. And I guess the little Baby Cthulhu could become a little mascot for the band. Because now I really want to see her playing in a band with Lydia from Beetlejuice and Wednesday Addams. I think it'd be interesting. So for now, I think we'll go with electric guitar because it opens up so many more doors to characters and story opportunities. And now this one choice I was wrestling with earlier, because I know she plays an instrument. She has to be. She has to. As there's no way I can have a character like Lady Midnight who can get away with not playing an instrument. So I said, well, guitar, that's something she has to play. She's the artsy type, and it's more portable than a piano or something. She can actually play this instrument in a variety of places, and so it was a difference between is she an acoustic player or is she going to be an electric guitar player? And yeah, she could be both, but to me, it's sort of cheating. Need to pick one. Just need to pick one, and that will do. I think that will do just right. Let's see here. I think that's where we'll go for now, because I really like this idea her being friends with Wednesday Addams and Lydia from Beetlejuice. For me, it's Lydia from the cartoon Beetlejuice, the one who has some sort of magic on her own. The one who can, I think in the cartoon, I think Lydia actually summons Beetlejuice with magic and stuff. Let's see here. Let's see. Gudria 387. Anyone who remembered that concert wasn't really there. That's how good they are. That's how good they are. Nef Champion, I would suggest you write a couple of scenes with both and then pick the one you like better. And that could be something we could do. Dan 1022. Maybe it also depends on what type of poetry she'll make. Edgier poetry like that makes sense for a band, or lighter poetry that makes more sense with acoustic. That's a good point, actually. It's a good point. Angel of Thy Sword. Well, I think the issue is more complex than that. I suspect the electric guitar would open more doors plot-wise, but the acoustic is better suited for a character. That's a conundrum here, because that's true. That's exactly the conundrum. The acoustic guitar fits a character better, but the electric guitar opens up far more opportunities for story and plot. So we're stuck with, should we do character, or should we set her up more for plot and story? Gudria 387. It would be interesting having scenes of her complaining to her bandmates, her non-existent love relationship with Dark Hood, and then having her relationship advice. Yeah, that's interesting. That's exactly something that would happen, because she'd probably keep it private until they kind of dig it out of her, and then they gave her advice and it completely backfires. Let's see. But it's an interesting idea. I think we should explore that. Well, I'll explore that later. That's where we're at. That's a little hint into what Lady Midnight might be going into on a possible project that I'm in development. I'm developing right now. And see, the Holy Ninja. Now I'm imagining a scene, much like the opening scene of the Guardians of the Galaxy. Yeah, exactly. They might not be fighting a monster, but actually they might be fighting a monster, and then she has her band playing in the background. They have to fight a monster during a concert, and the audience thinks it's just part of the show. Almost anything can happen. Or the scene where she introduces the baby Cthulhu to her bandmates. That too could be interesting. I think that a lot of fantastic choices and doors are open with the electric guitar. On the other hand, the acoustic guitar fits her character better. So that seems to be where we are. I think I'll go ahead and stop the stream now. I'll go ahead and end it and get ready for the private stream. That'll be, I believe, 8 p.m. where I'll go over the details of the project of Lady Midnight. So thank you everyone for joining me. Thank you to everyone for your suggestions and helping flesh out Lady Midnight, see where we're going with the character, where we're going with the story, and seeing what's happening. And I hope you had fun. I hope this was an interesting little exercise for everyone to participate in. And I wish you a wonderful rest of your Sunday. See, Angel of Thy Sword, forgive me for being so bold, but I find the challenge of writing her with an acoustic guitar to be a virtuous challenge. What if she's just a frustrated as we are? No band for her. Well, that's interesting too. Maybe she wants to be in a band, but she doesn't have one. And that could be interesting. That's a good point. A Gojira 387. And maybe she only plays the acoustic guitar for Dark Hood. Now that's good. That's a good point. We'll keep that one in mind. But thank you everyone for joining me. I'm going to go ahead and end the stream, and I will see you all next time.